The CDC tells you that you can do exactly what you've been doing for this entire time. But don't worry, you're a free people. So we'll talk a bit about what happened there. Rose McGowan is turning further and further against the Democrat Party and facing more backlash as she does. So we'll talk a bit about there. The Supreme Court is about to take up a major gun rights case. One of the first ones in more than a decade. So we'll talk a bit about what's going on with that. And Liz Cheney is making waves because, hey, she's got to be in the news because she might run for 2024. It's going to be all this and more. Hey, hey, hey. Do you trust the plan yet? I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Contemporary. My name is Jay Edgar. And as usual, we got a bunch of stuff to get to today because, my God, do they ever want to make sure that you are focused and glued to that television set for as much as you can. But hey, as long as we're sitting here, I'll take the ad hit and I will let you guys come back and watch what I find instead. And, you know, that'll cut down some of your time on cable news, in spite of the fact we're using some of the same sources here. So, strap yourselves in. We got a lot to go over, and not a lot of time, of course, but we did get closer to that 7 o'clock mark once again. So let's get into it, shall we? But before we get started, make sure that you're going over and checking out my friends from the Freedom Scoop Media Group. As we finish off the last little bits of our website, you can head on over there and check out the Generational Gap, the Daily Ignoramus, the R-Rated Conservative, the Breakdown with Breckenhoff, and the Freckles and Brit Show. And once we're back up and running, of course, you will have monetary options where you can help support our great creators directly, or you can buy our merch because we'll have the merch shop up as well. So either way, you can come on over there, read our articles, watch our video archives, and help us support great creators. Looking in at the finance for the morning, the Dow went up ever so slightly after spending most of its day down. It got up and it went up a little bit further than it wound up closing at, but The closing was 3.36 points up, or 0.0099%. So just barely eking out a win yesterday, but I guess for the most part a win is a win, and that's what we're going to take off of this. But that's what they see coming off of that. Your Bitcoin has creeped back up to $55,320 US dollars and 90 US cents. Still a little bit of a rise coming back up off of yesterday, but definitely a rise from what we saw over the weekend. The fuel in Madison, Wisconsin, we're still seeing that 257 as the low. More of your stations are hitting the 257 mark, with only a couple still staying at the 259 mark. All right, let's see what the investors have to say for the morning. Nothing. Let's fix this. We'll go look at the other article and we'll get this one going because I'm sick of doing this here. Give me just a sec. We'll do some on-air production and see if we can look at this one after the fact. I do love the fact that they do pick and choose which ones do and don't get brought up. But we've got archive.today, so if they do anything relatively quickly, we will still be able to read this one. And they're going to start loading it up right away, so let's see what Yahoo Finance has to say, and then we'll go from there. All right. Reading from Yahoo Finance, though. Stock market news, live updates, stocks trade mixed as investors await big tech earnings. From Emily McCormick. Stocks were mixed on Tuesday, with investors awaiting more corporate earnings results from major companies and a Federal Reserve monetary policy decision on Wednesday. The S&P 500 reversed earlier gains to trade lower after the blue chip index rose to an all-time high during Monday's regular trading day. The Dow ticked up while the Nasdaq also slipped. Shares of Tesla fell after the company's first quarter sales mix estimates, though earnings and automobile gross margins exceeded expectations in the report delivered Monday evening. Earnings results will pick up on Tuesday, with companies including Microsoft, Alphabet, and Starbucks poised to report results. The big tech names reporting Tuesday and later this week especially are set to be closely watched, with these stocks having largely underperformed against the broader market for the year to date as 2020's tech and growth-led rally cooled and investors turned instead to cyclical and value shares. Except for Google, you get the FANG stocks, and they've been dead money for 7, 8, 9 months now. Matt Maley, managing director and chief market strategist at Miller Tabak, told Yahoo Finance on Monday, "We're seeing Facebook trying to break out, Amazon finally getting to the top end of its range. Netflix last week couldn't break out, so that was a disappointment. If those things could finally pick up, that would be positive for stocks." Tuesday will also mark the first of the Federal Reserve's two-day rate-setting meeting, with the event ultimately unlikely to yield any major shifts in monetary policy. Officials have telegraphed their commitment to keeping policy highly accommodative during the recovery out of the pandemic, which to date has included keeping interest rates close to zero and maintaining an aggressive asset purchase program at a monthly rate of $120 billion. The Fed has been very clear that this time around they're going to wait to see inflation before they react. Kelsey Barrow, J.P. Morgan Asset Management fixed income portfolio manager, told Yahoo Finance. In the past, they've relied on their forecasts, and their forecasts really haven't done a good job. Inflation has consistently missed the mark over the past couple of decades, and this time around, they're doing a different approach. They're going to wait to see the data before they react. All right, so that's what we're seeing coming out of this, and a couple other things with that. 2:41 p.m. Eastern Time, the Fed continues to be the main directional driver for equities strategist. The Federal Reserve, in keeping interest rates near zero and maintaining its asset purchase program at the current pace, remains a key supporter of equity prices, even though Wednesday's monetary policy decisions and remarks from Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell will likely yield little news. The main directional driver for equities is the fact that the Fed continues to pump money into the market, Interactive broker Steve Sosnick told Yahoo Finance on Tuesday. "I don't mean to be that simplistic, but until or unless the Fed tells us otherwise, which they could tomorrow, but it's unlikely, That is what's putting a floor under things, and that's what's providing rather the ammunition, so to speak, for the market that rally that we're seeing. So, a couple things to look for, but your techs are starting to falter, and we're not getting enough reaction back out of consumer confidence to hold the market up. It is kind of a house of cards at this point, so we'll see what happens with it. All right, let's see if this is done yet. It does not appear that it is. It might be close, though. Give that just a second. All right. That might not actually work, so we might have to go on and do something else, which is fine. We will figure that out as we go. It was worth a shot, and at least something else will be archived. All right, let's get into the big news of the day then, since we're not going to be able to look at IBD. CDC unveils new mask guidance for fully vaccinated Americans from Sarah Cook, Alexander Tin, and Grace Seegers. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention unveiled updated guidelines on Tuesday for detailing activities that vaccinated people can safely resume, including attending small outdoor gatherings without the need to wear a mask. Or basically what the rest of us have been doing since all this bullshit began. Because, hell, I barely wear the mask indoors anymore, especially given the fact that here in Rock County, unless you're in the city of Janesville proper, most of your other places around here have said, the fuck with it. We're not enforcing that shit anymore, and they've taken their signage down. I can, as I mentioned last week, I can walk into the Quick Trip right now. No mask, no nothing. No signs, no glares, no nothing. They've still got the little bin out there with the basket that they gave the free masks away in, but there's never been anything in it. You can throw a little bit of hand sanitizer down, but, I mean, your localities are starting to look at the CDC and say, fuck yourself. But don't worry, you're a free person. You can sit down and you can watch, and you can go to a small outdoor gathering without your mask on. The CDC said so. Aren't you excited? Aren't you excited about that? The new interim public health recommendations detail a variety of situations in which individuals who have been fully vaccinated against the common cold can forego wearing a mask, but urge to the continued use of face coverings in most indoor settings and in crowded outdoor areas. Well, no. Today is another day we can take a step back to the normalcy of before, CDC Director Rochelle Walensky said in a briefing by Biden administration officials. Over the past year, we spent a lot of time telling Americans what they cannot do, what they should not do. Today, I'm going to tell you some of the things you can do if you are fully vaccinated. Okay, good citizens of America. You went out and got the vaccine we told you to get. Here's your treat. Are you ready? Are you ready? Get your treat. The new recommendations say fully vaccinated individuals can engage in the following activities without wearing masks: walking, running, hiking, or biking outdoors alone or with members of their household. Okay. I regularly hike the Ice Age Trail because it runs actually right by where I live, but also then runs all the way down to Janesville proper, and it's a nice 7-mile hike for me. I have never seen anybody, even the health-conscious Janesville proper people, wear a mask while hiking up and down the Ice Age Trail. Ever. No matter how panicked we were about this. Attending small outdoor gatherings with fully vaccinated family and friends. Attending small outdoor gatherings with a mixture of fully vaccinated and unvaccinated people. Dining at outdoor restaurants with friends from multiple households. Fully vaccinated people can also attend a crowded outdoor event like a live performance, parade, or sports event, as long as they remain masked, according to a CDC infographic of the new guidelines. No. Well, yeah, no. I'm optimistic that people will use this information to take personal responsibility to protect themselves and protect others, Walensky said. Well, no, for the most part, those of us who are looking at this and seeing that you're saying, oh no, you were a good boy, now you can have the treat, are going to say, well, fuck your mask. To quote the R-rated conservative, fuck your mask. So yes, aren't you happy that the CDC says you are a good boy, and you can go and do what it is. You can be free again, somewhat. I didn't vote for the CDC. Did you? They're not going to tell me what to do, and hell, even the people that I voted for aren't going to tell me what to do at this point, because the fuck with these people. All they see is power. They don't see anything constructive. They don't see anything useful, worthwhile. All they see is what's going to get them more money and more power. The money and the power. So, that's what we have going on with that. And in case you were worried about further freedom, here's one from KTLA telling you what California and Los Angeles are going to do. California and LA County will fully allow vaccinated people to go mask-free outdoors following CDC guidance. Good boy. Good boy. From Mariska Wensky and Karine Winter. California health officials announced Tuesday that the state plans to follow new federal guidelines and allow fully vaccinated individuals to no longer wear masks outdoors. We have reviewed and support the CDC's new masking recommendations and are working quickly to align California's guidance with these common sense updates, Dr. Tomas Aragon, director of the California Department of Public Health, said in a statement from the agency. In a tweet announcing the news, Governor Gavin Newsom applauded the state for managing to have the lowest test positivity rate and case rate in the entire country. Last week, only Hawaii beat the state in holding the lowest such statistics, but that changed this week as Hawaii's test positivity and case rates inched upwards in recent days, while California's have continued to decline. I wonder if testing rates have anything to do with that, or the fact that the governor is about to be recalled and possibly replaced by, of all people, Caitlyn Jenner. Although it looks like Randy Quaid is possibly going to be up on that too, so... Currently, the state has a test positivity rate of 1.2%, or 33 new daily cases per 100,000 people. By comparison, the total nationwide case rate is 116.4 cases per 100,000, according to the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. LA County will also update its own guidelines to align with new state and federal rules allowing vaccinated residents to go mask-free in most indoor settings. The county joined federal health officials in still recommending facial coverings when keeping 6 feet apart is not possible. No, fuck you. And I do, honestly. Even if I'm outdoors, I try to stay 6 feet away from people I don't know anyway. Even when I'm following all the guidelines. I don't want to be that close to you. I don't like you that much. But there it is. These are your new guidelines. So whether you live in California, California is going to say that you've been a good boy. You've kept the caseload down. We can now say that President Joe Biden, our hero, solved the commie coup. So now you get to go without your mask. Aren't you excited? Fuck your mask. All right. We'll move into some of the Tucker Carlson news here. Reading a tweet from Justin Amash. If you don't want to wear a mask outside, then don't. If you do want to, then go ahead. Respect other people's choices, including the choices of parents. Absolutely do not call the police or contact Child Protective Services. Leave the people alone as you want to be left alone. Replying to another random blue check, who I have no idea who the fuck this is, Justin Baragona says Tucker Carlson is now telling his audience to harass people who wear face masks outside. Let's have a listen, and then I've got an article to go with it.
We did give in. This grotesque version of Halloween went on for more than a year, and it's still going on. Not even Tony Fauci still pretends that masks are medically necessary. Instead, masks are purely a sign of political obedience, like Kim Il-sung pins in Pyongyang. We wear them because we have to. The only people who wear masks voluntarily outside are zealots and neurotics. How neurotic are they? Well, we know. A Pew survey from last March found that 64% of white Americans who classify themselves as liberal or very liberal have been diagnosed with an actual mental health condition. And you see them everywhere when you walk down the street in any major city. If you dare to go on foot from Union Station to the Capitol, for example, in Washington without wearing a mask, angry Biden voters will snort at you in judgment. How could you? They're saying from behind the gauze. How could you? That's the question we should be asking of them in return. The rest of us should be snorting at them first. They're the aggressors. It's our job to brush them back and restore the society we were born in. So the next time you see someone in a mask on the sidewalk or on the bike path, do not hesitate. Ask politely but firmly, would you please take off your mask? Science shows there is no reason for you to be wearing it. Your mask is making me uncomfortable. We should do that, and we should keep doing it.
All right, I'm actually going to push back on Tucker on this one, but it's not because of anything that he legitimately has to say. It's just I legitimately hate Tucker Carlson. But he is wrong on this one. If somebody, and this was before they even put the mandates in, this kind of goes on to the non-aggression principle thing that goes with, hanging around with libertarians, even though I'm not one myself, but really, legitimately, honestly, unless I'm having a problem understanding somebody, if that person wants to wear a mask in front of me, that's his or her deal. I might laugh at it. I might make fun of you for doing it. But if you want to do it, well, honestly, you're free to do it. I'm not going to come back out and tell you not to. Unless, of course, I can't understand you. And then it'll be, okay, pull it down. Hell, my boss still wears one around work every day. I don't know why. Even the person, because I've got one coworker who just sits back and does whatever the CDC says, and he was going double mask for a while. Even he has decided that, you know what, it's not worth it. And barely wears one anymore. I don't even try. I didn't even bring my mask to work anymore because fuck that. There is one grocery store I still do business with occasionally that still makes the requirement, and I wear it there. Other than that, nobody in Rock County cares, which is nice. It's very nice. But yeah, if you want to, I'm not going to stop you from wearing it. Absolutely. Do it. If you think that's what's the best way to keep you safe. It's just like, and this was another thing that happened the first time we did a big charity stream for frontline work. This was actually, I think, the second or third time the Gen Gap did one, but I wound up taking it over because Rob's internet shit out in the middle of the stream. So all the comments that are coming from that were actually coming to my stream, not Rob's stream. But just recently, it was like a couple months ago, I had somebody come in and drop a comment because this was right at the beginning of the commie coup. And we didn't know at the time. Like, we know now because we've been dealing with this for a year. But this was, what the hell? John, are you in the chat? When the hell did we do that? Was that May or April? Like, right after all this shit started. Anyway, somebody left a comment in there and I saw it while I was playing Fallout one night. And the person was laughing. He says, "Oh, imagine, why is this person wearing a mask when she's in her home on screen?" Because Britt was wearing a mask. You know why? Because we didn't know, and her kid is immune compromised. Because this was right at the beginning. Her kid has type 1 diabetes. And he's like 6. So she was doing what she could. What she felt was the best maneuver to protect herself and her family. So no, you should be free. If that's what you think is the best way to do so. Yes, we will be derisive and we will mock you. Because the science has shown that it hasn't, but you still have the freedom to do it if that's what you want to do. Alright. Anyway, let's read a bit from The Hill on the same topic here. Tucker Carlson says, "Contact Child Protective Services if you see kids wearing masks outdoors." From Dominic Mastrangelo. Fox News host Tucker Carlson urged viewers late Tuesday to call Child Protective Services and report the parents of children wearing masks outdoors. "As for forcing children to wear masks outside, that should be illegal," Carlson said on his program. Your response when you see children wearing masks as they play should be no different from your response to seeing someone beat a kid in Walmart. Call the police immediately, contact Child Protective Services, keep calling until someone arrives. Carlson also said that requiring children to wear masks while outdoors constitutes child abuse, and that all Americans are morally obligated to attempt to prevent it. If it's your own children being abused, then act accordingly. Let's say your kid's school emailed you and announced that every day after lunch your sixth grader was going to get punched in the face by a teacher. How would you respond to that? He asked. That's precisely how you should respond when they tell you that your kids have to wear masks on the soccer field. That is unacceptable. It is dangerous, and we should act like it because it is. But too few of us have responded like that. We have been shamefully passive in the face of all this. Well, honestly, seeing how a lot of kids, especially kids my age, have reacted to helicopter parenting, I would actually say, hey, if that's what they want to do is push it on their kids, then let them push it on their kids at this point, because that's just going to drive a new disdain for authority in the rebellious age group that, well, Generation Alpha is coming into. But once again, it's about protecting your own family in the way that you think your family is best protected. Yes, mock these people derisively, but they still have the freedom to make their own choice on their own way to keep themselves and their families safe. The First Amendment protects you if you want to wear a certain piece of clothing or not wear a certain piece of clothing. The government can't come in and say that you shall not wear this. It doesn't protect you from ridicule and mocking. Keep that in mind. You could still be mocked relentlessly for doing something that we think is stupid. So meme these people into oblivion if you want to. All right. From CNN. A little bit more COVID shit. China offered COVID aid to India while U.S. dragged its feet, but Delhi isn't that keen. From Nectar Ghan and Jesse Ewing. When India asked the U.S. this month to lift a ban on exporting vaccine raw materials to help the South Asian country's COVID crisis, Washington appeared to drag its feet, citing the need to vaccinate the American people first. Well, yeah, it should. For once, the White House is saying America first. This tepid response disappointed and angered many in India, which is grappling with the world's worst outbreak. Daily infection numbers are hitting new records, hospitals and cremation sites are overflowing, and patients are dying due to the shortage in medical supplies. A backlash at home, as well as widespread international criticism, quickly led the U.S. to reverse course, promising to provide aid to India. Outside of India itself, the loudest and harshest critic was China. Over the past week, state media has published a flurry of articles lashing out at Washington, claiming the initial response fully exposes its selfishness and accusing it of obstructing global efforts. Yeah, that's the same thing the fucking socialists say to libertarians of, well, why don't you want to pay taxes? You're being selfish. These taxes could be helping people. Yeah, after the fucking government skims off the top. And accusing it of obstructing global efforts to distribute vaccines to developing countries in dire needs. India is not a developing country. India's got a massive economy. Mostly because they have a massive amount of people. Since containing its own domestic coronavirus outbreak, which meant killing everybody who had the coronavirus, Beijing has positioned itself as a global leader in fighting the pandemic by killing people who had the coronavirus, often contrasting its eagerness to help other countries with the America First approach of the U.S. under former President Donald Trump. And as the crisis has rapidly spiraled out of control in India, Chinese leaders have repeatedly expressed a desire to help, pledging to offer support and assistance to the best of our capability if the Indian side informs us of its specific needs. Oh, that's wonderful. Okay. You guys are continually killing our people on our border. And you believe that our border goes, what is it, like 50 miles in your favor? So we're sitting over here with a border dispute. But sure, I'll take your medical supplies. If Delhi falls into that, then they are fucking dumber than I thought. There is so much tension between these two countries, and they're constantly bickering at each other over their border and who is on whose side. But sure, yes, go. Take vaccines from them. Nothing bad will happen off of this. From a country who legitimately killed anybody who caught the coronavirus. Ah, well, that's fun. Let's talk about the cult news. Rose McGowan likens Democrats to the cult she was brought up in and claims they're backing leaders opposed to changing the world for the better. From Chris Jewers for Mail Online. Actress Rose McGowan attacked the Democrat Party during an appearance on Fox News on Monday. And boy, did she piss a lot of people off when she did this, by the way. Holy shit. I couldn't believe how many people were saying such nasty things about Rose McGowan over this. When she was their hero under the Trump years because she was a rad femme who opposed the evil Orange Man. Speaking to primetime host Tammy Bruce, McGowan, a leading activist in the Me Too movement after she exposed the now-graced media mogul Harvey Weinstein, started by telling the interviewer she was raised in a cult herself. The actress compared her time in the very famous Children of God cult to the Democratic Party, bashing it for what she called a propaganda machine. If you guys haven't checked out Jessica Green's Leaving the Democrat Party video, which is the legitimate first media I ever consumed of Jessica Green's, it's very interesting because she'll point out the cult-like differences to this herself. And it is very cultish. I mean, you look at the fact that, these people will be your best friend and they'll come in and they'll hug you when you toe their line. Like, come on, no, well, yes, let's all be good, let's all be happy, let's all be friendly. And then when you stop towing their line, at which point they reject you, they will mock you derisively, like I just suggested you do to people who wear the mask. But they'll come out and they'll dox you. They'll try to get you fired from your job. They will try to make sure that you can't live if you are not one of them. That screams cult to me. McGowan told Bruce that she used to vote Democrat herself, but she had an awakening from the party, which she now views as a cult. It's not a cult. They only worship Dr. Fauci and Joe Biden for whatever ungodly reason. Do you remember that god-awful song that Cher put out about Joe Biden? But yes, they also worship Joe Biden. They worship Kamala Harris. They worship these people, but it's not a cult. It is a religion at this point. I'm not here to make people feel bad about their political choices, she told the host, but I'm here to say that you might be in a cult too if you don't know the signs. And I do believe Democrats, most especially, are in a deep cult that they really don't know about and they aren't really aware of. The 47-year-old said that her upbringing in the Children of God cult had given her a superpower to recognize other cults. It gave me the ability to see the control in the propaganda machine, especially in the US, for what it is and how it harms people and how the left can harm people just as much as the right if they go very, very deep into it and ignore all the other aspects of kind of reality in a way, she said. I leave the Republicans alone more because I do respect people more that are like, this is what we are, this is what we're about, and this is what we're against, she said. See, that's probably what pissed a lot of people off, was the fact that she just said that part. Whereas I find the Democrats are really pretty much almost against all the same things. They're against changing the world for the better. They're for keeping a system in place that is for so few people and benefits so few, but they masquerade as the helpers. She went on to question the Democrats' willingness to make meaningful change. We Democrats would do this. The world would be perfect if only those Republicans would get out of the way. Well, okay, you've got control, so now what? What are you going to do to make the world a better place? Well, if you ask these people, they'll say they'll go and put all Donald Trump voters in prison forever, and Donald Trump in prison, and all Republicans in prison forever. In the January 2020 election, President Joe Biden won control of the White House, while Democrats won 50 seats in the Senate and maintained control of the House, essentially giving them legislative control. However, the Democrats do not have the 60-seat majority required to break a filibuster, making it difficult for the party to pass legislation opposed by the Republicans. Which, once again, this has been my deal from the top of this. Sell it to the Republicans. Make a bill that isn't so ungodly toxic that it has to hit the filibuster wall, that you'll get those 60 votes. But that's all they do. They just push out these bills that are insanely toxic and jam their agenda down other people's throats. And to hell with everything, because we've got a simple majority. We should be allowed to use it. So, that's what McGowan had to say, and I mean, there is a point where she's absolutely right. I never thought that I would say that about Rose McGowan either. But she still looks like she's fucking nuts. Maybe she'll vote Libertarian next time. That's an interesting thought. All right, let's keep going. I've got a couple here talking about the Supreme Court case from CNBC and NPR, of course, because I did have to get my NPR voice in here. We haven't used that for a while. But let's see what CNBC has to say first. Supreme Court takes up major case over right to carry guns outside the home, from Tucker Higgins. The Supreme Court on Monday agreed to hear a major Second Amendment dispute that could settle whether the Constitution protects a right to carry guns in public. The decision, announced in an order, comes as President Biden faces pressure from activists to take action to limit the availability of high-powered weapons amid outcries over mass shootings. This is, of course, in spite of the fact that most of your shootings, your mass shootings, as it were, don't happen with high-powered rifles. They happen with a handgun. Because people usually know when you're carrying a high-powered rifle into a crowd. But the handgun, you can have 6, 7, 8, 10 of those hiding around in your baggy clothing, and nobody's going to know the fucking difference. Those in favor of increased gun control measures have expressed concern that the nation's top court, which has a 6-3 majority of Republican appointees, could expand the reach of the Second Amendment. In 2 landmark cases handed down more than a decade ago, the Supreme Court held that the Second Amendment protects the individual right to carry a gun for self-defense inside the home. Last year, it declined to issue a substantial ruling in its first major Second Amendment case since. In the case the court agreed to hear on Monday, New York State Rifle and Pistol Association versus Keith Corlett, number 20-843, individuals and a state organization are challenging a New York law that requires individuals to show proper cause in order to receive a permit for the open carry of a handgun. This will be interesting, by the way, because this is going to change the way that a lot of the states run their stuff, too. Robert Nash and Brandon Cook, the individuals who brought the suit, both applied for licenses to carry handguns for self-defense and were denied. The district court reasoned that neither man had the proper cause because neither man faced any special or unique danger to their life. You live under a government, you face a special or unique danger to your life at all times. A federal appeals court upheld the lower court's decision not to grant the men licenses. In their appeal to the Supreme Court, authored by former Solicitor General Paul Clement, the men argued that New York's law was unconstitutional under the top court's precedents in the District of Columbia versus Heller, decided in '08, and McDonald versus Chicago, decided in 2010. As this court made clear in both Heller and McDonald, the Second Amendment, at its core, guarantees the right to keep and bear arms for self-defense. Clement wrote, like the threats that might precipitate the need to act in self-defense, that individual and fundamental right necessarily extends beyond the four walls of one's home. And that's something you want to keep in mind as well. You do have the right to defend yourself. And honestly, you don't necessarily carry... Let's use the fire extinguisher for an example, because that's the one that a lot of conservative ink likes to beat down to death, in spite of the fact that they're more authoritarian than sometimes the progressives are. But they like to beat this one to death, so let's use that one for a second. Now, you don't always know when something bad is going to happen, which is why you keep a fire extinguisher in the house and why you keep insurance on your house. Because you don't know when something's going to happen, and we'll use the house as an example too, in spite of the fact that they're talking about walking around with a gun. Now, the New York law says that if you want to get a permit to carry outside the home, you need to know that you face a substantial danger in order to do so. What they're saying essentially in this law is that you would need to know that your house faced a significant danger for fire before you could buy fire insurance or a fire extinguisher to put in your home. It's a little bit of a stretch of equivalency, but think of it in those terms. You can't buy a fire extinguisher unless you know that there's a significant risk that your home could burn down. Think about how ridiculous that sounds. And that's kind of the same thing that New York is telling these people. Now, it's New York's decision, but we'll see if the Second Amendment supersedes it. That's going to be the first one that we hear. And I know a lot of gun rights activists are absolutely terrified of this because this might go in the favor of the people bringing the suit. And there's a very good chance that it will. So, that's what we see coming up from that. Let's grab this one here from NPR for you guys. So, NPR writes, Supreme Court to take up first major gun rights case in more than a decade. This is from Scott Newman and Nina Totenberg. Hey, remember, NPR needs your money too. Would you withhold your money from NPR when they can take your money and get these nice microphones that make your voice sound very good quietly and spread their communist ideas around the country? Don't forget to give your money to NPR, National Progressive Radio. Don't you want to help NPR? Wouldn't you want to help them? They need your help. Well, they need help anyway. All right, let's see what they have to say here. In a major foray into gun rights, the Supreme Court on Monday agreed to review a case testing how far states may go in regulating whether an individual may carry a gun outside the home. More than a decade ago, the Supreme Court ruled that the Second Amendment right to bear arms guarantees the right to own a gun in one's home for self-defense. But since then, despite the repeated pleas from gun rights advocates, the court majority has declined to make any further decisions about how far states may go in regulating gun rights. Now, however, the court in New York State Rifle and Pistol Association versus Corlett will review a New York law upheld by lower courts that require individuals to get a license to carry a concealed gun outside the home. The case will likely be argued in the fall. Hold on. Now, I was of the understanding that this was for the right to open carry outside the home. Yes, see, according to this, number 20-843, proper cause in order to receive a permit for the open carry of a handgun. So, one of these two articles, either CNBC or NPR, is lying to you right off the bat, and I don't know which one it is. So I would actually have to look down into the case a little bit more, but CNBC says that the permit is for open carry, and NPR says it's for concealed carry. Fanning, are you in the chat right now that you could weigh in on this? Because this is local to you at this point. This is coming out of your state. So if you see this, you hear this, let me see if you can clarify that one for me. All right. The court's decision follows mass shootings in recent weeks in Indiana, Georgia, Colorado, and California, and a surge in firearm sales, particularly to first-time gun buyers. While most states have virtually unrestricted rules for concealed carriage of guns outside the home, bullshit! Oh, that's fucking bullshit. New York and 7 other states, California, Delaware, Hawaii, Maryland, Massachusetts, New Jersey, Rhode Island, have significant restrictions. Excuse me. No, most states do not have virtually unrestricted rules for concealed carriage. Okay, never mind. I know which article is lying at this point because as somebody who does concealed carry, I know what the requirements are for the state that I live in, which comparatively is relatively lax. It's one of the more lax. Most states have virtually unrestricted rules for concealed carry. Fuck you, NPR. Fuck you. In New York, for instance, licenses are restricted to those going hunting or to target practice, and those who can demonstrate a need for self-protection, such as a bank messenger carrying money, or a store owner who wants to keep the gun in his store. Most of these states have a large population. New York, New Jersey, California alone have nearly 68 million people, or more than 1/5 of the U.S. population. Research indicates that if concealed carry permits were easy to get, roughly 10% of adults in those states would likely be carrying guns. According to UCLA law professor Adam Winkler, author of Gunfight, The Battle Over the Right to Bear Arms in America. In LA County, which has 10 million people, he says estimates are that some 500,000 to 800,000 people would get concealed carry permits if restrictions were largely eliminated, compared to fewer than 500 now. Yeah, and think about what would happen the next time somebody goes up to try and carjack you in Los Angeles. And you pull out that SIG and say, "Wrong car, fucker." In 2008 and 2010, the Supreme Court overturned handgun bans in Washington, D.C. and Chicago, respectively, in a pair of landmark cases that redefined gun rights in the U.S. In those cases, a sharply divided court ruled that the Second Amendment right to bear arms is an individual right, not one associated with the militia. As the court had previously implied, those decisions marked a huge victory for the NRA and other gun rights organizations. So, yeah, NPR is lying to you at this point because the virtually no restrictions for concealed carriage of guns outside the home. Fuck you. No, I just had to go through a course, get a license, and get registered over the fact that I concealed carry in my state. That's not virtually unrestricted, you fuckstick. All right, well, let's keep going. I've got one from Fox News. Biden cuts off press questions. "I'm really going to be in trouble if I keep answering." From David Rutz. President Biden said he would be in trouble if he continued to take questions from reporters during a rare back and forth with the press on Tuesday afternoon. After speaking about new federal health guidelines for mask wearing for vaccinated and non-vaccinated individuals, Biden answered a few shouted questions from gathered reporters at the White House. "I'm sorry," he said, after turning his hearing aid up and listening to questions about his own mask wearing and a potential summit with Russian President Vladimir Putin. "This is the last question I'll take, and I'm really going to be in trouble." Let's have video.
President Harris
India needs AstraZeneca. Will you make it faster for them to get the vaccines we will get soon? India, they're suffering at this moment.
What do you say to the folks in India?
Will you make it?
I'm sorry, this is the last question I'll take, and I'm really going to be in trouble. With regard to India, I spoke at length with Modi, the Prime Minister. We are sending immediately a whole series of help that he needs, including providing for those remdesivir and other drugs that are able to deal with this and prevent, in some cases, but help recovery. Secondly, we are sending the actual mechanical parts that are needed for the machinery they have to build a vaccine. And that's being done as well. We're also discussing, I've discussed with him, when we'll be able to send actual vaccines to India, which will be my intention to do. The problem is, right now, we have to make sure we have other vaccines like Novavax and others coming on, probably. And I think we'll be in a position to be able to share vaccines as well as know-how.
All right. We don't need to listen to Biden lie anymore. It wasn't clear what Biden meant, although he's known for self-deprecation over his history of gaffes. Who will Biden get in trouble with for taking basic press questions? He's the president, Ricochet's Lindsay Fifield tweeted. Well, and that is a good question, too, because, I mean, we're supposed to... I mean, the Trump administration was the most opaque one in history, in spite of the fact that you couldn't get between that man and a microphone, lest you be bowled over by his 270-pound ass. He saw a microphone, he's like, oh, microphone, I get to talk to the lying press, okay? And I get to come out and tell them what I think about them, the lying press, the fake news media, okay? He saw that microphone, and it was like a fucking bolt. And this guy, I might get in trouble if I take this question here. So, I'm just going to take it anyway, man. Come on, man. All right. How about from the Blaze? Let's see what the Blaze is thinking about President, the most legitimate and most popular president in history, honk. Washington Post discontinues presidential fact-check database after 100 days of Biden. It ran the full 4 years of Trump's presidency, from Phil Schibber. The Washington Post, where democracy goes to die in darkness, has discontinued its presidential fact-check database, which was launched during former President Donald Trump's tenure, after only 100 days into President Joe Biden's term. In a tweet thread Monday, fact-check editor Glenn Kessler announced that while he and his team will continue to rigorously fact-check Biden, they will no longer maintain a database like they did under Trump. Kessler cited the overwhelming workload as the reason for the change, even while noting that monitoring Biden's statements has proven to be less work. Well, that's because he doesn't fucking talk to anybody. If he doesn't get up in front of the microphone, why would you need this? That's another thing to point out. Now, of course, this is biased and say, oh, well, Honest Joe is always telling the truth. Happiness is a thing called Joe. All hail our great and glorious Savior, Joe Biden. Hallowed be his name. There's that aspect of it, but there is also the aspect of he never gets up. And just like we saw in the last article, I might get in trouble if I take questions, man. But, okay, I'll take just this one. So, there you go. They're not going to have the fact-checking database anymore. They'll continually fact-check when he actually does talk to people, but, let's just close the department. Let's keep going. From the New York Post. Representative Liz Cheney not ruling out 2024 presidential run. Regulars of the show, you know what's coming. Are you ready? No, 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 no. You can't do this to me. No, 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 no. No. From Julie Grace Brufke. House Republican Conference Chair Liz Cheney is not ruling out a potential presidential bid, the Post has learned. I'm not ruling anything in or out. Ever is a long time, she told the Post when asked if she would ever consider running in the future. The Wyoming Republican, who has been a frequent target of former President Trump, said there are a number of contenders she sees as having a potential for the 2024 nomination, adding that she believes that lawmakers who led the efforts on challenging the election on January 6th should be out of the running. Yeah, we'll talk a bit about that in a second. I think we have a huge number of interesting candidates, but I think we're going to be in a good position to be able to take the White House. I do think that some of our candidates who led the charge, particularly the senators who led the unconstitutional charge not to certify the election, in my view, that's disqualifying, she said. No! No! I think adherence to the Constitution, adherence to your oath, has got to be at the top of the list. Well, then adhere to your oath, you bitch. So I think, that certainly will be a factor that I'm looking at, and I think a number of voters will be looking as they decide about 24. Cheney, the number 3 Republican in the House, for whatever fucking reason, and daughter of former Vice President Dick Cheney, which should also be disqualifying, by the way, has been a vocal critic of former President Trump, often rebuking his style and splitting with him on a number of issues, including foreign policy, during his time in office. Let me just see if I can break this down for you here. The daughter of Dick Cheney disagrees with a man who picked up the bill that we have to pay for our endless wars overseas and said, "Why the hell are we paying for this? What the fuck? We need to get these people out of Afghanistan and the forever wars." Yes, that person disagrees with the second person's foreign policy. After her dad came out and said, bomb, 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 bomb Iran. Interesting how those two people would be completely diametrically opposed, don't you think? Get rid of that bitch. All right, let's keep going. Chris Salissa makes another op-ed, which he calls an analysis here. Liz Cheney thinks January 6th should be disqualifying for some GOPers. Wyoming Representative Liz Cheney has made no secret about her opinion that the riot at the U.S. Capitol on January 6th was incited by then-President Donald Trump, and that for her party to maintain any sort of credibility with voters, it must acknowledge that fact and try to move on from Trump with all due haste. Yes, let's go back to the Jesus fucking warhawk Republican Party and then wonder why we go further into national fucking debt and continue to put kids who weren't even born yet by the time September 11th came about. Yeah, let's go back down that path. You authoritarian warhawk fucking cunt. I don't care for Liz Cheney. I don't know if you guys know that or not. On Monday, at a Republican retreat in Orlando, Florida, Cheney took criticism a step further as she discussed the 2024 Republican field. I think we have a huge number of interesting candidates, but I think that we're going to be in a good position to be able to take the White House. She told the New York Post, "I do think that some of our candidates who have led the charge, particularly the senators who led the unconstitutional charge not to certify the election, the same one that Democrats did 4 years prior, the exact same action, by the way, that the Democrats did 4 years prior. And they did the same thing for Bush. And your people, by the way, you bitch, did the same thing for Barack. This was not a new thing. It just got publicized for the first time. She added, "I think that adherence to the Constitution, adherence to your oath, has got to be at the top of the list." Maybe you should try doing that for once. So I think that certainly will be a factor I'm looking at, and I think the number of voters will be looking at as they decide about 24. Which, while bold, Cheney is making clear that she believes that anyone who voted for or supported the objections to the Electoral College count earlier this year simply cannot be seriously considered as future leaders of the party. That disqualifies almost the entire Democrat Party. By the way. All right. Got one more here for you from Business Insider. Liz Cheney says the Department of Justice should decide whether to prosecute Trump for inciting the Capitol riot. You know, we actually do have a tradition in this country. You know, you'll notice that the Donald didn't lock her up. Lock her up. You notice that didn't happen, right? Because, in spite of the propaganda that presidents and presidential candidates put out to get elected, when you start going back after your political opponents, that really goes down a very, very bad path that we probably shouldn't be going down. But certainly, let's break that tradition for the uniquely evil orange man. This is from Eliza Relman. Representative Liz Cheney, the third highest-ranking House Republican, refused to say whether former President Donald Trump should be prosecuted for inciting the January 6th Capitol riot. Cheney, who voted to impeach Trump earlier this year, told reporters at a House GOP retreat in Florida that the decision about whether to persecute Trump should be left up to... Oh, did I say persecute? I meant prosecute. No, I didn't. Should be left up to the Department of Justice. She also said that the bipartisan House Commission investigating the January 6th Capitol selfie vest shouldn't be expanded to include an investigation of Black Lives Matter protests, as her fellow GOP leaders are pushing for. Well, I see where you fall. I think that what happened on January 6th is unprecedented in our history. We almost got to see another President Trump. Oh my God. People aired their grievances. Republicans said that they liked somebody other than our Warhawk fucking faction. Fuck this bitch. Alright, that's enough of that article. If I keep talking about Liz Cheney, I am going to blow a blood vessel in my brain. Alright. Got one here from the Daily Wire for you guys. Border Patrol Chief resists Biden. I cannot comply with demand to use non-legal immigration terms. From Ryan Saavedra. Rodney S. Scott, Chief U.S. Border Patrol, sent a memo to Troy A. Miller, senior official performing the duties of Commissioner, U.S. Customs and Border Protection, informing Miller that he cannot comply with the Biden admin's softening of legal terms to refer to illegal aliens. The Biden admin sent a memo to immigration officials last week outlining their leftist agenda, which includes no longer using terms that are part of the U.S. federal statute. Daily Wire reported. The memo orders immigration officials to make changes in rhetoric such as substituting non-citizen migrant for alien, undocumented for illegal, and integration for assimilation. The memos are also a clear message to immigration officials and officers who supported Trump that Biden is now in charge of immigration policy. How's that working out for you? And so immigration officials should behave accordingly. Scott sent a memo to Miller on April 16th titled Updating Terminology for U.S. Customs and Border Protection, April 16th, and explained that he cannot comply with the proposed changes and that if Biden wants to alter what illegal aliens are called, then the admin needs to pass its proposed U.S. Citizenship Act of 2021. Scott warned against politicizing the agency and said that he was becoming concerned about the morale of those charged with protecting America's borders. The memo states, this memorandum serves as my official non-concurrence to the proposed updated terminology for U.S. Customs and Border Protection, communications, and materials. I will not undermine this effort, however, I cannot endorse it. Rationale: the U.S. Border Patrol must remain an apolitical federal law enforcement agency. Over the years, many outside forces on both extremes of the political spectrum have intentionally or unintentionally politicized our agency and our mission. Despite every attempt by U.S. BP leadership to ensure that all official messaging remained consistent with the law, fact, and evidence, there is no doubt that the reputation of the U.S. BP has suffered because of the many outside voices. Mandating the use of terms which are inconsistent with the law has the potential to further erode public trust in our government institutions. Fucking based. So, they came out and said, you better use the right language. Newspeak, 1984 level bullshit. And this dude said, fuck your Newspeak. And good on him. All right, let's keep going. Got just a few more, then we'll do something that I am thankful for and head out of here for the day. From Fox Business, California officials, big tech, and Biden firm coordinated misinformation censorship before election judicial watch. So this came to me via Seawall in the Discord, and you guys have probably seen the Discord link scrolling through the live chat throughout the morning here. You can either get into the Discord or the Gilded, and I will take your articles, and I'll run them through to see if I can get them green check verified, of course. But I will take your articles, and I will go and look into them. You guys can help shape the show and tell me the stories that are important to you. Like this one that came to me from Seawall over in the Discord. California, I read the headline already. From Michael Ruiz. Judicial Watch, a government transparency watchdog group, announced Tuesday that it has obtained documents allegedly showing California officials collusion with social media giants to censor speech surrounding the 2020 elections, including some of its own posts. The group also said a communications firm linked to the Biden campaign played a role in determining which posts should be censored, creating a misinformation daily briefings that officials shared with Twitter, Facebook, and Google. These new documents suggest a conspiracy against the First Amendment rights of Americans by the California Secretary of State, the Biden campaign operation, and big tech, said Judicial Watch President Tom Fitton. These documents blow up the big lie that big tech censorship is private, as the documents show collusion between a whole group of government officials in multiple states to suppress speech about election controversies. Most popular, most fair election, most safe election in history, and our current president is the most popular president in history, far surpassing Barack Obama, honk honk. Judicial Watch said it received more than 500 pages of documents from California Secretary of State as part of a public records request stemming from a December report that the state's official election cybersecurity had been monitoring the social media posts and had successfully asked big tech to remove or flag at least 24 messages. Well, it would be nice, but your mainstreams are going to bury this. This isn't going to do anything. But it's nice to know that, yes, they are fucking around with everybody and they're not being held to account. They can do what the government can't. They can suppress your speech. The government can't. Well, let's keep going. From the Hill. Arnold is getting back into politics. Schwarzenegger says Jenner has chance at governorship. From Judy Kurtz. Arnold Schwarzenegger predicts Caitlyn Jenner has just as much of a shot at becoming California's next governor as any other candidate because anyone has a chance. I think people are dissatisfied with what's going on here in California, and I hope as many people as possible are jumping into the race and going for it, the Terminator star and California's former Republican governor said in a Monday interview on ABC's Jimmy Kimmel Live. Well, Arnold says that anybody has a chance. Neff, go run for governor. There you go. Jenner, a former Olympian and Keeping Up with the Kardashian star, announced last week that she would run in a recall election aimed at deposing California Governor Gavin Newsom. The California Secretary of State released data Monday indicating that the recall effort had enough signatures to qualify for the ballot. When I was in the recall election, there were 150 candidates there, and it was a huge circus, Schwarzenegger, 73, said. The Hollywood action movie actor turned politician was the governor of California from 2003 to 2011. It was kind of fun to run for governor at the time. It will be fun this too for everybody, Schwarzenegger told Kimmel. The former bodybuilder offered some advice for the Golden State's gubernatorial candidates. The key about all of this, it doesn't matter if it's Caitlyn or if it's anybody else. If you have a clear vision of where you want to go, what are the kinds of changes you want to make, and why are you qualified to become the governor? And that's actually really good advice. It's not about how famous you are, although Caitlyn Jenner is going to get a huge boost over the fact that everybody knows who this chick is. This chick who used to be a dude. Everybody knows who this person is. And they all sat back and watched her when she was a him, acting like a complete dunderhead, dunce, in Keeping Up with the Kardashians. I have no idea, because I never watched that show. My roommate at the time really liked that show, but I've never seen it. I don't even know what the Kardashians are famous for. I'm not going to lie. But that's good advice. That is definitely sage advice. Have a clear vision of where you want to go, what kind of changes you want to make, and why are you qualified to become the governor. That last part is the least important out of all three, but you should know what kind of changes you want to make, and I would actually go a step further on that, because, and this is kind of where, I've had the discussion. I had it with Trent Ortner, and I've had it with Elaine myself. This is kind of where I fell off with Jo Jorgensen as well. I mean, I kind of had the falling out with her based on the fact that she put out the BLM messaging, but the big cross that Jorgensen had to bear with me was the fact that, yeah, she put out the big libertarian wish list of, what are you going to do when I eliminate, how are you going to spend the money when I eliminate income tax, or what are you going to do once we get all the people home from war, because I can just snap my fingers and make it happen. No, you haven't given me a clear policy prescription as to how you are going to make it happen. That's the important part. You need to have a plan to make something happen, especially with Jenner, who would be running as a Republican, but a California Republican, running straight uphill against a Democrat supermajority in the House. So, yeah, there's that. All right. From the Austin American Statesman, another one that came to me from Seawald over in the Discord. Divided Texas Senate backs bill defining transgender medical care as child abuse. From Chuck Lindell. Sharply divided along party lines, the Texas Senate gave an initial approval Tuesday to a bill that seeks to prohibit gender-affirming medical care for transgender youths who are under 18. Senate Bill 1646 would broaden the legal definition of child abuse to include providing puberty-blocking medication, hormone therapy, or surgery to a transgender Texan under the age of 18. All right, I mean, this is kind of based, and I like this, but I want to step back for just a second and talk a bit about the puberty blockers thing, because I came to a horrifying realization a few days ago about the fact that, I mean, these puberty blockers are being given out like candy at this point. Like, anybody who comes back and says, I think I might be a girl who's actually a boy, or the other way around, are being given a puberty blocker because then they can wait till they're 18 to decide, well, if they don't go through puberty. And this is what makes it horrifying, too, because I know that the QAnon people get made fun of because they talk about the pedophilic, satanic cult of child traffickers out there, but really, in reality, if a kid doesn't go through puberty until after they're 18, what else happens after they're 18? Think about that for a second. What else normally happens at age 13, 12 to 13, that wouldn't happen until after you're 18 at the age of legal consent. That is a horrifying thought. Once you start to realize what else is going on with this. I am not saying by any chance the Q people are right, by the way, either. Because they are out of their fucking minds. But you can't argue the correlation either. Parents who allow such treatments risk removal of their children by Child Protective Services, said the bill's author, Senator Charles Perry of Lubbock. The goal is to delay treatment until at least age 18, when transgender Texans are in better position to make life-altering decisions, he said. Once puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones are given to a child, they are almost guaranteed to fully transition, Perry told the Senate. When adults give children these drugs, they're setting a path for children may not have chosen, and a path that may never be able to be reversed. A final Senate vote to approve SB 1646 is expected on Wednesday. So, as far as your children, I don't think the Texas Senate should be weighing in on this. Now, as far as a doctor going behind the parents' backs, then yes, that should be weighed in on. But as far as the parents going, I still think it's wrong. I still think it's fucked up. And these parents need to be mocked and memed into oblivion if they do this. But they're doing what they say is best for their children. And maybe we should be looking at the mental fitment of the parents at this point. But, you know, your kids, your house, your rules, I still say is the best. But, you know, we're still looking at some of these where the school will come back and say, oh, well, little Sally says that she's a boy now, so our parents won't approve, so we're just going to take her over to the clinic and the doctor can give her the hormones without the parents' consent. That is wrong. Well, it's all wrong. It really is. But there's a lot of stuff going on here. And, you know, as Linda said when she was on here, and she's got an underage kid who identifies as transsexual. And they're not doing any of the treatments, the hormones, or anything else that go along with that. And she pointed out that, yes, if the kid wants to go and get a tattoo, get an ear piercing, or anything else like that, that kid would need the parents' consent for that. But not to go and get a hormone treatment. To make a life-altering decision like that. So, the libertarian in me says this is bad. But the person who looks at some of these horrifying consequences for this thinks that this might need to be done. And I don't know where I fall on this one. All right. Let's see. What else do we have here? I got just a couple more. Then we'll do something I'm thankful for and head on out of here. Deadline to obtain Real ID extended to May 2023 in Arizona and the U.S. From KTAR.com. Arizonans will now have more time to get the Arizona Travel ID that will be required to pass through security checkpoints for domestic travel. The U.S. Department of Homeland Security announced Tuesday it's extending the deadline for Real ID enforcement from October of 2021 to May 3rd of 2023. The Arizona Travel ID requires more documentation than a standard driver's license to meet federal Real ID security requirements. Beginning in May of 2023, it will be required to board a plane, enter restricted federal buildings, or access military bases, and it will serve as driver's license. Real IDs are distinguishable by a small star, yellow star, embedded in the upper right-hand corner. The ID cards are issued by the Arizona Department of Transportation Motor Vehicle Division. Applicants must apply in person and will be asked to provide their social security number, proof of identity, and proof of Arizona residency. I thought requiring an ID was racist. By the way, how racist can these airlines be? Appointments can be made online. The ID costs $25 and will expire after 8 years. Arizonans are not required to obtain the travel ID that could opt out or opt in to use a passport. There we go, as a form of ID to get through airport security instead of a driver's license. According to the Arizona DOT, 1.2 million of Arizonans already have the ID. Yeah, and I know they did a lot of this for the CDL too. I actually have to have my birth certificate if I want to make any changes to my driver's license at all, anything whatsoever. So, those of you in Arizona may be looking at various different things to go on with your ID, but you have until 2023 now. All right, last one, and then we'll do something I'm thankful for, and head on out of here for the day. Woman charged with felony embezzlement for not returning Sabrina the Teenage Witch VHS 21 years ago. From Erica Stanish. A VHS movie rented more than 20 years ago has come back to haunt a woman in Texas. The problem is she never returned the tape she allegedly rented in Oklahoma, and now it's landed her in some serious legal trouble. The first thing she told me was felony embezzlement, so I thought I was going to have a heart attack, said Karen McBride, who's now facing more than just a late fee charge. It was a moment for disbelief for McBride when she was talking to the Cleveland County District Attorney's Office this week after she learned she is a wanted felon for never returning a Sabrina the Teenage Witch on VHS 21 years ago, which she said she never rented. Guys, we live in the dumbest fucking timeline. I had lived with a young man, this was over 20 years ago. He had 2 kids, daughters that were 8, 10, or 11 years old. And I'm thinking he went and got it, and didn't take it back or something, McBride said. I don't know. I've never watched that show in my entire life, just not my cup of tea. Online documents show McBride was charged with felony embezzlement of rented property in March of 2000, but never knew about the charges until recently, when she was trying to change her name on her license after getting married. They told me that I had an issue in Oklahoma, and this was the reference number for me to call this number, and I did, McBride said. Meanwhile, I'm a wanted felon for a VHS tape. Documents show the movie was rented at Movie Place in Norman, Oklahoma, which closed in 2008. Ed Blau with Blau Law Firm told KOKH Tuesday that even though there's technically no victim in the case because the charges were filed and a warrant was issued against McBride, Cleveland County could still persecute the case. I mean, I didn't try to deceive anyone over Sabrina, the teenage witch, I swear, McBride said. McBride said over the last 20 years she's been let go from several jobs without being given a reason why, and now it all makes sense. This is why, because when they ran my criminal background check, all they're seeing is these 2 words, felony embezzlement, McBride said. We live in the dumbest fucking timeline. Why? What is wrong with this world? You are wanted for felony embezzlement. For a crime you didn't even commit. That someone living in your house committed in your stead. Over a Sabrina the Teenage Witch Beach. So, let's go down the list of why this is ridiculous. First off, nobody came and found you in 20 years. You are sitting out for felony embezzlement of rented property to a business that no longer exists, that's gone out of business since then, for renting a tape of a show that nobody's seen in 15 years on a medium that nobody's used in 20 years. I have no words. I have no words for this, you guys. This one rendered me speechless. All right. That's what I have. All right, we're going to head on out of here. But before we do that, I'm going to end the day after that ridiculous stupidity with something that I'm thankful for. So I closed the fundraiser. Yes, I know. I'm going to be using the fundraiser thing again. I closed the fundraiser the other day. And the money is on its way over to the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. That's all good. We raised $1,887 for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. I am so happy I'm so happy with the way that this all turned out. I'm so pumped over the fact that so many people saw this as a major problem. And I mean, especially in the commie coof land, but even before and after that, we're still going to be facing this problem, this decision, and I am very, very afraid. Just looking at where we went in the 2008 recession and the fact that there is another one on the horizon that's coming, and the government's not helping it right now. When people start losing jobs, when businesses start going under, when they start getting taxed into oblivion, when small businesses start getting put under and jobs start leaving these cities and going overseas, this is something that even after the CDC finally says, okay, you've been good little boys, we can end the commie coof now, we're still going to be having problems with this, and people are going to be out losing jobs. I've been there. I have 100% been there, and know how difficult it is when your girlfriend leaves you and you're sitting here without the prospect of a job. You've been losing your job every 90 days because then they don't have to pay the insurance on you or give you benefits or give you unemployment insurance. And it's a struggle. It's a frustration. And when you have nowhere else to turn. This is something that Elaine and I plan to do again. And I'm very thankful for the fact that she came in and helped me to do this and make this to be what it was, because everything else we've done on Freedom Scoop up to this point has been $200-300 for the charities that we've been doing. And now we're sitting here with 6 times that amount, ready to go to a great cause to help people, to make sure that they know that they've got options, that they can come out, they can talk to somebody, that they've got a place that they can turn around and go. This pandemic and the aftermath is depressing people. And some of the economic fallout that's going to be going forward is going to be doing so for a very, very long time. And I know this is important to my audience. So I do hope that if you do see somebody that you know is struggling a little bit, that you reach out to that person to make sure that person knows that they've got someone to turn to. And I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful for the attention that this got, the fact that we sat down and actually had the conversation about it. And I'm thankful for everything that happened for this. And I'm thankful for my audience as well. You guys rock. And with that, we're going to head on out of here for the day. Make sure that if you're all lurking, because it looks like I saw 12 people watching and only a handful of people in. But I do thank everybody at the end of the week for coming and hanging out in the live chat. So if you guys want to make sure that you get a special thank you at the end of the week, make sure you get those last minute messages in if you're lurking. Let's throw some music up and head on out of here, though. All right, so Contemporary will return tomorrow with more news. We'll probably talk a little bit about Liz Cheney, some of this CDC stuff, probably some more Tucker bullshit as well. But the whole world and the whole news cycle can change in a day, and something else could happen with this as well. So definitely looking forward to seeing where the news goes in the next week, and looking forward to seeing you guys there. And always looking forward to being back here. See if we can move this back more towards the 7 a.m. start time as well. So we will see you tomorrow. Until then, I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Take care.